Shrestha Manumapi Sachi Putram Matra Swarupa Rupam Tasyagradurim Maturim Goshavati Radha Kundam Girivaram Ahoradhika Madhuvasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Guru Tantu Sri Nindantam Pulakotarena Vikasatnipa Prasuna Chavin Pradhikritya Bhujadvayam Hari Hari Tyuksaya Vadantam Nratantam Galadasvinirjarachayai Sinchantam Ravitalam Gayantam Japarsadai Parivritam Tam Goranestuham Ali Paripalita Pravalita Sanandamalokita Pratyasam Sumana Palodaya Vidho Samodama Vrindaranya Bhuviya Prakasha Madhurak Sarvati Shai Sriya Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ulalasa Kalpadruma Radha Madhavayo Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ulalasa Kalpadruma Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ulalasa Kalpadruma Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ullasa Kalpadruma Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ullasa Kalpadruma Jai Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Jai Gosaira Kuri Charana Bandhan Jai Te Vignanath Pura Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare So, I'm going to try to be a little less distracted today. So I'm going right into it. We're still continuing on here. And I'm just reading from the blog post right now. So if you want to follow along, you can do it there. You'll see the Sanskrit, you'll see the translation, and you'll also be able to see Babaji's comments. And so, of course, everything I say is not going to be there. You'll have to just live with it. But at any rate, I mean, like I was saying in the last class, I'm going to call these classes, I decided. They are readings. I like to call them readings, but it's become a little bit more than readings. At any rate, the idea here is to increase the level of rasa, to just dive in to Harikatha, because that's what, in a way, the Jiva Goswami has forced me to dive into Harikatha. It's a bit interesting because I was watching a video of Richard Hawkins and another scientist who are, very, very powerful right now, what we call it neo-atheists. And they're very affable, good, reasonable fellows. And everything that they say is not at all stupid. But they feel very proud. I was thinking he was felt, Louis Krauss, I believe. I'll have to go and check it. But he was so proud that they had discovered a way to prove that the world came from nothing. That nothing is not really nothing. That the way the scientists think of nothing and the way the theologians think of nothing is not the same. But it's quite rather right. Of course they're not thinking about the same kind of nothing. The nothing that can produce something is not a nothing. Because that's the concept Karyavada. But at any rate, leaving that aside, they're very, very confident. But I think that it's better to return to the Harikatha. All right, we're going to go into the Harikatha. The point is that we're hearing these very intelligent men who are presenting very, very reasonable arguments into atheism, to bring about disbelief in God. Right? And they are very proud. They think that humanity has reached the apex of civilization, and that it is the result, precisely, that a certain elite have been provided with the kind of brains to be able to see through the God illusion, as it were. And that's how human society advances. And the reason that human society is advancing more rapidly now is precisely because more brains have been freed from the bondage of religious thinking and all the kinds of psychological. One of the things that he said was that it doesn't have, because some people talk about religion and the placebo effect. Right? That, where there is a religion, there are, more peaceful and happy people. They live longer lives. So they said, so the scientific person says, well, it doesn't have to be true in order to work. It doesn't have to be true in order to work. But if it works, then it must be true, right? If it works, then it must be true. At any rate, let's, leaving aside, there's plenty of room for doubt in this world. So how to become immersed in Radha Krishna Katha? How to become immersed in this other world of Goloka Vrindavan without appearing a total fool? It's impossible. You're like the Star Trek people, right? The ones who dress up in costumes and pretend to speak alien languages that are just invented. Giving speeches in Klingon. Has the Bible been translated into Klingon? It's a very interesting thing. It doesn't have to be true in order to work. But if it works, then it must be true. In other words, if we are looking at it the wrong way, that it has a particular purpose. And this is not a small thing, because we talk about millions of years of evolution now. Really, if we talk from the point of view of evolution, we have to say that most of these ideas about religion and stuff, that these are all seem to be something that human beings do naturally. You have to reinterpret the idea of religion a little bit to get a better idea of any kind. Symbolic language translates into religion. How can you think symbolically? And so those symbols need to be communicated in a particular way. Through a small society, of course, it's not a big deal. You spread those ideas very quickly. But in a cosmopolitan world like today, the people just, it's like in pockets here and there. At any rate, we are coming back to the Bhagavatam, and we're trying to get into the world of the Bhagavatam. So we are like the Star Trek people. But we're more serious than those Star Trek people. This is the path, let's say, of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and the path of the Bhagavatam. You have to enter into another world, right? This is second life. This is playing second life. There's something deeply psychological about it. But second life here carries within it, according to this sampradaya, according to this tradition, in a foreign land, far, far away from modern civilization. Some ideas were there about life, about happiness, that were put into motion, and have had some time to percolate and become multifaceted. So we're entering into the Bhagavatam, and we're doing it with the guidance of Srila Jiva Goswami. Not just Sri Jiva Goswami, but with Sri Gopala Bhakta Goswami, and with Sanatana Goswami, and with Rupa Goswami. The knowledge of all the Goswamis resides in Sri Jiva Goswami. Sri Jiva Goswami is the youngest. He had no adult or no serious association, let's say, personal association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the only one of the six. And he was like a student of each one of them. He was obviously the student of Sanatana. He was obviously the student of Rupa. He came to them already as a brilliant person. He came to them for his post-PhD, his postgraduate study. He'd finished his graduate studies in Belarus. Now he was coming to meet his uncles to get a postdoc in Vaishnavism, in Bhajan, in Radha Krishna Bhakti, in the Bhagavatam. Consecrate everything to this idea of Radha Krishna worship. So, Bhagavatam, where did we get to? Jetatanate madhava tavaka kvachit brashanti margat tvayi baddhaso nidah tvaya bhigupta vicharanti nirbhaya Vinayakami kaparudhasu bhavan prabhu. Well, I love that verse. We talked about that in the last one, so I won't go into detail, but just read on here. So, O Madhava, your devotees who are bound to you in love never fall from the path, like the non-devotees who were described in the previous verse. Protected by you, they march forward, using the heads of those who cause obstacles as stepping stones for their progress. Aha. Well, that has a kind of a martial feel to it. About going out there and stepping on the heads of anyone who gets in my way. Well, it's not exactly like that. But still, it means that you face up, that you cross the obstacles. If you want something, right, it takes that kind of determination. One has to have several ideas in one's head. You have to think that this is what I'm doing here is going to reach to the supreme goal of life. You have to believe this. No matter what practice you're doing, you have to start thinking that my ultimate goal of life, the ultimate purpose, the Parama Purushartha, what am I living for? Why am I here in this world? You ask yourself that question, right? And you're testing everything that you do against that question. So, those devotees who are bound to you in love, they never fall from the path like non-devotees. Protected by you, they march forward using the heads of those who cause obstacles as stepping stones for their progress. So we talked about that already. Right? The idea is that obstacles, he's talking about obstacles being a good thing. Because what happens is when you face obstacles, if you're a devotee and you take shelter of Krishna, then you are abhigupta, you are protected. You'll be protected by Krishna. So this is a kind of understanding. To be protected by Krishna doesn't really mean that externally you'll be protected by Krishna, but internally you'll be protected by Krishna. Your integrity as a spiritual being, as a moral being, that will be protected by Krishna. If you have courage. So if you have the courage, if you're bound in love, well, the love will give you the courage. That's the thing about love. Real love is supposed to give you courage. And anyone who's in love, his courage is always being tested. Love courage, truth. This is what makes life interesting. Alright, so those who are bound with Krishna in love never fall from the path like non-devotees. Okay? That means that somehow or another, actually this is only Krishna's wish. And this is only Krishna's wish. And Majati, Krishna right there, Narada Muni's instructions also. Alright, so just let's read what Babaji says here. Some persons think that a jiva can fall down from Vaikuntha. To support their conclusion, they cite the example of Jaya and Vijaya. So Sri Jiva Goswami writes that Jaya and Vijaya's coming to the material world was not a fall down. He cites a verse from the prayers of the Devas to Mother Devaki that explicitly says that devotees do not deviate from the path of bhakti, unlike the Gyanis, because their hearts are bound to Bhagavan out of love, Baddha soul. The word tata used in this verse connects it to the preceding and compares the situation of devotees to those other transcendentalists, even Jivan Muktas in Brahman realization. And I quote that verse. I think I went through all this the last class. So let's just continue on rather than going into any more detail here. At least not for the time being. I'm sure things will be revisited. So nachatrayor eva swaparadha bhoga shigre nistaratham api tadishi cha jata iti vacham. So here's another possibility that I can raise. He's going to conclude it's the Lila Shakti that's doing all this. But for the time being, what might other people say? What are other people saying about this particular situation? Why Jaya and Vijaya? What's going on here? So that it was to liberate them more quickly from their aparad. So Jaya and Jaya committed an aparad. They were abhishapta. They were cursed. I think if you don't mind, I will turn off that Tampura sound. Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe. So, it's not proper to say that the reason that the Lord desired that they should take this kind of, why did he say it? Why did he agree with it? Because in order to make it go more quickly, right? Instead of having to take 7 births of another kind, they would have to take 3 births as a demon, get killed by Krishna, and then they would return more quickly to Vaikuntha. So that was the Purva Paksha. But he says, no, that's not right. That's not why Krishna did this. You got it wrong. You don't know what's going on in Krishna's head. I'll tell you. Tadrisha eka parama bhaktair hi bhakting vina soklad salokyadikam api nangakriyate. Listen. Tadrisha parama bhaktair hi bhakting vina salokyadikam api nangakriyate. Look, devotees, they will not even accept. Right? They will not even accept such a destination as any of the 5 kinds of liberation. Salokya, Sarsti, Samipya. Salokya Vityuta. Diyamanam Nagrihnanti Vinamat Sevananjana. So the devotees, they don't take even the 5 kinds of liberation. Ekatva. See, I couldn't even say it. Would you believe that? Okay. I forget the word ekatva. Right. So, what's he saying? So they don't even accept. So he's getting the point. He says, they don't even accept that. So what's their problem? That's not the problem. Tat sadbhave nirayopyangi kriyata iti. If it exists, if bhakti is there, well then they'll even go to hell. They don't have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, it might feel more intense. Yeah? Devotion, it's like they say, there's an absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think I was starting to get in on this on the previous talk about this theme in the Bhagavatam about suffering, how to deal with suffering. So if you have to see, so the way to deal with suffering is to understand that it's Krishna's mercy. For whatever reason you are undergoing this experience, it's God's gift to you. That's what it means. For whatever reason, for whatever weakness in your character that needs to be rectified, whatever moral fiber that needs to be challenged or stretched in all these situations, it's all Krishna's mercy, right? It is all Krishna's mercy. There's not truer words spoken. So if you recognize that all things are Krishna's mercy, that means that you learn from them, right? But the thing you have to understand, if it's Krishna's mercy, the lesson you're being taught is that bhakti is the only salvation for you. So take shelter of the supreme shelter, right? Take shelter of Krishna. So, let's just go on here. So the devotees that will go to hell, that's not a problem. The problem is the purity of heart. The problem is to rectify themselves in such a way that they'll become pleasing, that they'll make Krishna happy. And the challenges that come by overcoming them, those are ways that we make Krishna happy. If we understand that we're doing it for Krishna, we're doing it because we want to attain Him, and we're doing whatever is necessary because we've become crazy, we've been made crazy, we agree, not a problem. We've been made crazy to want to enter into this reality. Why would we want to enter into this reality? We know that can it be reproduced in the modern world? Was it even so great to begin with? Without air conditioners and fans and video and all the rest of the modern necessities of life. The 6 Goswamis are living in a much different world, right? They can still dream of nirvana. They can still dream of heaven. They can still look for heaven within and preach with all sincerity that here is the supreme happiness. All other happinesses merge into the happiness of pure bhakti for Radha and Krishna. That is the charama parama purushartha, because the goal of the purushartha of life is sukham. Whatever people say, however you twist it around, however you re-identify or reconfigure sukham, to try to make it something else, that's actually what we're looking for, and that's what we use our intelligence for also. So if they have found bhakti, they'll go to hell. It's all the same to them. Can you understand? Can you understand that the suffering that they're ready to accept, the extreme suffering of hell, if they can remember Krishna, if they can just keep chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So, let's go. So, Natyantikam Nigadayanti Api Iti Adehi. That's Sadbhavi. So now he's got a quote. He's got a quote that we're supposed to know because he's only indicating the beginning part. So if he's only using the beginning part, then in all likelihood, we could go looking for that verse elsewhere in the Satsandarbhas. He's already talked about it. And so we're supposed to know about it, because here we are in the Satsandarbha, we're in the 6th Sandarbha. So being in the 6th Sandarbha is supposed to be like a postgraduate study. Right? You've already graduated Bhagavat Sandarbha. Let me remind you a little bit of some of the issues that came up there and look at it in the light of the Prayojan Tattva. As a preparatory, as we're going now, we're just in the very beginning of the book, right? We're in the introductory portion. So he's trying to explain to us what's about Priti. This is what the first part of the book is. He has to define his term. And actually, he doesn't even define Priti until Anuched 62. So it's a couple of months away, folks. Those of you who are hanging on to your seats to hear about Anuched 62, because in a way that's the most important Anuched in the first part of the book, in the introductory portion, before he starts to delineate different topics of rasa and so on, which are more structured and are not so much. It's more in the same way that in Bhakti Sandarbha, I don't remember up to what Anuched, but there's a whole introductory portion where he's just talking about Bhakti, establishing that Bhakti is the best of all different sadhanas. And then the second part of the book is explaining, the different activities of Bhakti and explaining different aspects of the external sadhana of Bhakti. So in the same way, the Priti Sandarbha can be divided like that also. In the first part, he's kind of defining his terms and establishing the philosophical or theological structure of the topic of Prayojan Tattva. And in the second part of it, he's explaining the forms that it takes, right, in the Lila and and the different rasas. So he's explaining a bit the rasa aspect of the Bhagavatam. We'll be getting to that, but it's going to take a while, especially at this rate. So he's going to quote a verse, and then he's going to quote another verse. So there's two verses that are coming up. Natyantikam vigadayantyapi and kamam vava swabrijinai nirayeshu nakstat. So let's see those two verses. Let's first read the translation. It is also not proper to say that Bhagavan's desire for them to undergo the consequences of the Kumaras' curse was so they could speedily efface their offense to the sages. The reason for this is that such supreme devotees do not even accept liberation, such as salokya, devoid of service. So that should be a well-known verse to all of us, right? The 5 kinds of liberation: salokya, sarshti, samipya, sarupya, ekatamityuta, diyamanam nagrihnanti, vinama sevanam jana. They don't accept any of it unless there is seva. So unless they can have some kind of seva. Manasi seva is also seva. So if they can just remember Krishna in whatever form of bhakti that they have, so they don't accept even liberation. They would rather anything than to forget Krishna. So that for this reason, that such supreme devotees do not even accept liberation such as salokya devoid of service, but will accept even hell if service to Bhagavan can be had there. Point. Jaya and Vijaya are descending into the material world to play the role of demons. That's an existence for a devotee that's worse than hell. But they're ready to accept it. Why? Because they know that it is pleasing to Krishna. They know that it is pleasing to Krishna, because if Krishna wanted to stop it, then of course he could stop it. He wants it. So because he wants it, of course we accept it. So they accept their destiny. And Krishna has a purpose. He wants these leelas. He wants this theater to go on so that people can read about it in the Bhagavatam. So let's read the verse. Natyantikam vigarnayanta pite prasadam kim vanyadarpita bhayam bhruva unnanayaste yenga tvadangri sarana bhavatah kataya Kirtanyatirtha jasasa kushala rasagya. It's a very good verse. This is also, this verse is coming from the third canto. This is coming from the same, this is the Kumaras. This is coming from the same Lila. Right? So now we're talking about how the Kumaras, this is the Kumaras who are saying this, about the Jaya and Vijaya. So you see Jaya and Vijaya's reaction. They see that Jaya and Vijaya, they don't care. If this is pleasing to Krishna, they have full confidence even before Krishna says it. Ma bhaishtam, matam mama. This is mama, this is my wish that this should happen. So even before hearing that, they were confident that this was Krishna's wish and they were already surrendered to it. Because if this is Krishna's desire, and we have an opportunity to please Krishna by being demons, then let it so be. But they knew that there were going to be such big demons that Krishna himself would have to come and kill them. That's going to be the extent of their power. That's what kind of powerful demons they are. That only God himself can come and destroy them. That's the Leela. I want to show what it is to be a bad guy. We're gonna be arch villains, right? In the theater of the Bhagavatam, Hiranyaksha. Hiranyakashipu, if you talk about an arch villain, right? So here we are in the third canto, we're talking about Hiranyaksha. And only in the seventh canto will we come to talk about Hiranyakashipu. Because there is that much difference between Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu in levels of bad. Anyway, Hiranyakashipu was a nasty guy trying to kill his own kid because his own kid is saying stuff that he doesn't like. You know, brave kid. This kid can speak truth to power. His father has power. He's a snake, a vrishchika. A vrishchika later on. He's a scorpion. Even the love of a scorpion is dangerous. Right? When's that scorpion going to bite? You can't love a scorpion. You can't love a snake. There's so many great stories in India about people who lived through a flood, spending weeks on end sitting in a tree with several poisonous snakes on the other branches, and each respecting the other's space. So when he left, this idiot went and wanted to touch the snake in a gesture of love and friendliness and gratitude. And he thought that there's some kind of aura of friendship had been created between them. And of course, the snake just bit him, and he died after surviving 40 days or whatever in a tree. This is the kind of loka pravada. This is the kind of thing that they talk about. All right. So natyantikam. So this is coming now from the same circumstance, right? Kumaras, they are looking at, marveling at the behavior of Jaya and Vijaya. So how are they marveling at the behavior of Jaya and Vijaya? Natyantikam viganayantyapite prasadam Kilvajadarpita payam vruva unanayaste Yenga tvadangrisharana bhavatah kasaya Kirtanya tirthayasasa kushala rasagya. This is talking about sadhakas. So here, rasagya, very great word that we come up with here. So rasagya, of course, is an important word in the Bhagavatam. It's important when we're understanding the Prayojan Tattva. So right now, we haven't gotten to rasa yet. We're just talking about sukham. And we're exploring a little bit what's the meaning of happiness, right? And we're understanding the relationship between happiness and purity. The relationship between happiness we've already defined. That happiness means to see Krishna with love. So we're looking for, we've already gotten to, but we haven't really started talking about rasa. We haven't started talking about the flavors of love, right? We haven't broken down the intricacies of the production, the psychological production of rasa. You have to understand Krishna Lila that it's being told, right, as a story, but the story's meaning is being revealed. Right? So the story's meaning is the real part of the story. And I was talking about, is it effective or is it true? If it's effective, it has to be true. So is this story effective? That's the question we have to ask. That makes it rasa. So rasagya, those who really know rasa. So now the people who know rasa, is Bhagavad Bhakti rasa. Because we're not really so much interested in other kinds of rasa. Other kinds of rasa can actually all be subsumed. And when you learn the whole picture of rasa and you understand the concept of rasa as being prema, and so you start to become a student of prema. Right? This is an old idea that I was harboring in my heart. Prema prayojana. So here we are with the Priti Sandarbha, the Prema Prayojana. We've arrived. We've arrived. I don't know about you guys, but by legitimate means, through the legitimate process of reading the 5 previous Sandarbhas, I am now fortunate enough to be able to read the 6th Sandarbha. And for whatever reason, the Lord has made it possible for me to have, 1 or 2 people listening. I hope that they will be appreciating it. But I'm just trying to relish this and understand it for myself, because I feel that having reached the Priti Sandarbha, in a sense, is having attained the prayojan. That I'm now entering into the postgraduate study. Bhakti Sandarbha, okay, now Priti Sandarbha. Sambandha Abhideya, now prayojan. Yeah. The Krishna Prema Pancham Purushartha. So we're entering into a analysis of prema. And we're understanding, and we understand prema very much, you'll see when we get to Anuched 62. It's very much associated with the idea of happiness. Love and happiness, what can I say? Those who have understood the madness of love know that it is a drug. It is the most powerful, really, of life-changing forces. So, natyantikam viganayanti. So they're kushala, they're rasagya. They are kushala. Alright? So that kushala is an important word. You know, we have it there in the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga, karma su koshala. Koshala, expertise. Kushala, clever. We get this word all over the place to indicate a very clever level of devotee. One who is, you know, who is discerning. So those discerning knowers of the rasa, what happens to them? What's going to be happening to them? They are Tvad Angri Sharana. They've taken shelter of your feet. They have taken shelter of your kata. They've taken shelter of you because you are the Kirtanya Tirtha Yashaha. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashaha. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashaha. This is a good word. Yashaha means glories. Right? Tirtha. So Tirtha in the holy places or by the sages or by the gurus. Kirtanya Tirtha. But those where of all those holy places that are to be glorified, that is where your fame is being sung. So you are the most glorified Lord. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasa. So, they, what happens with them, right? They natyantikam viganayanti apite prasadam. They don't count liberation itself as being your mercy. If you give them liberation, if you give them Brahma Sayujya, that for them is not desirable. So these are the Kumaras who are talking. They are being put into they are suddenly being put in this position where they thought that they were at the top. And they encounter Jaya and Vijaya, who are mere doorkeepers. Right? We talked about that. They won't let them in. Right? So now the Kumaras have transformed. They've seen the character of the devotees. See the heroic character of the devotees. As a matter of fact, I will just say this because I was just telling this story. I was just telling this story to a bhakta here. Right? I know it's off topic, but it's not really all that off topic. But it was about Bhagavad Rasika. So I talked about Bhagavad Rasika on my blog, and so really, if you want to read the story in a slightly more literary way, Bhagavad Rasika, he was someone who was kicked out of the Dham by his own guru. And the thing about it is that it was a minor offense, if it was offense at all. Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So what was that offense? The offense was that he was begging Madhukari from a person who was outside the Varnashram system. Okay? So now people talk, right? This is what I'm saying. So now, was the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya affected by the whole Chari Dham or the Chari Ashram system in the 17th, 18th centuries? It's just coming in the beginning of the 18th century. We're getting that whole business of the Chari Sampradaya. Now, all this thing about, that there are four Sampradayas in the Kali Yuga, all that stuff. And these four Sampradayas are Nimbarka, Madhva, Ramanuja, what is it? And they didn't want to include Gaudiya. Madhva, Ramanuja, Nimbarka, and Vishnu Swami. So how Vishnu Swami got on that list, I don't know. But they didn't see a Sampradaya there for Chaitanya. So Chaitanya needed to hurry up and have a Sampradaya in order to be accepted. So they made up a connection to the Madhva Sampradaya. Because there's nothing about that really except for interpolated texts prior to that. There's no evidence for it anywhere. There's no hint of it. Even in Jiva Goswami, he quotes Madhva fairly often. But he's in really, even though he doesn't agree with Sridhar Swami all the time, he's in the line of Sridhar Swami. Because everybody starts their study of the Bhagavatam. That's the first commentary you're going to read. Sridhar explains to you a meaning, let's say. He might not explain always the best meaning for a Vaishnava. But his general tendency is towards bhakti. His general tendency is to glorify bhakti. But because of this kind of dual nature of the Bhagavatam, where it's always kind of slipping back and forth between Brahma-sounding verses, the Brahmavadi-sounding verses, and Bhakti-sounding verses, and it throws the ordinary listener for a loop, because how can both be true? Achinta Bheda Bhed. Right? So, but here it says that these people who have taken shelter of your feet and of your Harikatha, who are expert, let's say, they're rasagya, they have delved into the meanings of these leelas. So now for us it's more intellectual, but sometimes it's better to be intellectual, even if you're from that tradition itself. They love it. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves probing into the meaning of the Leela. It's the same way. This just like, kind of Star Trek people are still talking about the 1963 version. It's become their sacred lore, their sacred text, and they can talk about it forever. And the wisdom that is found there. And the kind of human world that is portrayed, the kind of society aboard the Star Trek there. Anyway, I don't want to get off too much on that, thinking of this is well, you'll see the way I talk about Krishna Lila. I talk about Krishna Lila as a story, okay? That's why I'm saying these things about the truth and effectiveness. It's actually a very American idea. But the thing is that the people who prefer truth, they can't help it. By nature, they have to whack it down. They represent the other side of intelligence, the side of doubt, the side that needs to know. Now, most of this atheism that's going around, I have to say, I don't want to put down their thinking. They're obviously very intelligent men. And in a way, I have to be a little, penitent that I would do such a thing, as to oppose their sheer brilliance, because they are in every way correct and accurate, except in one thing. They don't know how it works. They're all still on the platform of externals, of trying to figure out the bricks and mortar of the universe, right? Like I said, he was saying from nothing, but we just changed the definition of nothing, ha. So therefore, nothing, of course, the world can come from nothing, because nothing is not nothing. Now that's a strange way of arguing. When we say nothing, we mean nothing. Right? It's a concept that is impossible to understand, literally. If a Buddhist wants to merge, the Buddhists also saying the same thing. They're saying that this nothingness is actually a pleroma. This word, pleroma, from Platonic Gnostic area, Jung likes pleroma, the fullness, the nothing and the fullness. But there is no nothing. There's just the fullness of everything. So to attain nothingness means to attain fullness. This is a very nice idea. So then, is that compatible with bhakti? You'll be in that state, in that pleasurable state. In that pleasurable state, just like they talk about this floating in the chamber of warm salt water, freeing your mind and consciousness, entering into deep realms of yourself, taking it while psychedelic drugs are racing through your blood. And there you are witness to visions, multicolored visions that just bombard your brain so sensually, devoid of body. That kind of thing, those kinds of pleasures, natyantikam viganayan tyapite prasadam. They don't think that that's God's mercy. And now God's mercy, okay, if I'm talking God's mercy, I might say, okay, God's mercy, I don't want to use that anymore. I don't believe in God, so I say, God, heaven forbid, that kind of thing. It's entered into the language, we almost can't stop it. Try to avoid it, but it's very difficult. That's the way languages have great, though they're changeable at the same time, they have great staying power. Okay, so they will not think that liberation is actually God's real mercy. They would not pray for that. They surrender to God's will. Kim vanyat arpita bhayam gruva unanayaiste. So anyat, whatever else there is, that's arpita bhayam. That's a seat of fear, because you're always worried about losing it. It's temporal. It can't stay. But you have to protect it and so on. Arpita bhayam. It's full, actually, it's the sign of death. How Dhruva Unanayaiste. So that's kind of interesting. He says, by your upraised brow. So your fear, everything could fail by the merest twitch of God's desire. The extent of your power is so small. And the game that Krishna has put you in, the Leela that Krishna has put you in, the Leela is, what's the story? The main story is how I fell in love with Radha Krishna. How I fell in love with some other form, Sita Ram. How did that happen to me? Why? To understand yourself, why this happened. This is your story. That's God's mercy on you. Right? If you live this story like a hero, I'm a devotee of Radha Krishna. How did that happen to you? Why is that true? Why do you believe that? There are so many Richard Dawkins. There are so many Steven Pinkers and all the rest of them. Right? Let them. Stephen Fry is a good one too. So many wonderful arguments. But this level of understanding, the highest thing, because whatever you believe, you have to think that this is the highest thing. If you want your life to be heroic, you have to consecrate your life to that which is the highest thing. How to reach that. And sometimes it requires, of course, various different kinds of ways that happens. Each individual has his own path in that way. But whatever it is, the prasada at the end of the life is the Pancham Purushartha, is the seeing of Krishna with love, the seeing of God with love. That's what our goal is here. And as for other things, what's the point of them? This one idea here. The idea he's just saying. That just, that God's will is such that just, like the slightest lifting of his eyebrow would immediately bring to an end whatever projects you may have. So of course, you're rewarded by success through your effort, but then again, sometimes you're not. Sometimes, only for some, yes, they are the heroes. At the same time, they become the characters of literature because of their fall downs and their failings. So, neither liberation nor the other goals of life that are so fragile that they can be destroyed at a moment's notice. Your family, your wife, your mother, your father, your children, they can all be gone in an instant. Some disaster takes place. For some, that's the worst possible hell. And sometimes they have to live for years. All these kinds of hell that have been devised for us. All Krishna's mercy, yes, that's what we say. Because in order to be free, we have to understand where real value lies. Artha. What's the Paramartha? What's the Panchama Purushartha? Which is synonymous with happiness. Because if you're there, then you'll experience the Parama happiness. The Parama happiness cannot be separate from your fulfillment as a human being. You cannot be a fulfilled human being and still understand what Parama Sukha means. This is a very interesting thing. So, that's the conclusion here. They are glorifying Jaya and Vijaya because Jaya and Vijaya are ready to accept hell, even if it means that even when for them liberation was available. They were at such an elevated state of consciousness, but as devotees, they did not care a hoot for Brahma realization, nor for any other material thing. What they simply wanted was to remain in the association of devotees and to hear about Krishna's glories. And why is that? It's because they are clever and because they understand about rasa. Okay, so we get all that? Jaya and Vijaya are ready to play this role of being Krishna's enemies. And they're going to play this role so well, they're going to be so captivated by the Lila Shakti that they will be fully absorbed in playing the role of someone who hates God as best they can. And their crusade in God, they're engaged in a crusade against God to destroy the idea. And in order to do so, this attack that they're carrying on, so the Kumaras, they are representative of that. And they have come to see that Jaya and Vijaya are ready to accept this hellish condition of playing the role of Krishna's enemies and doing it to the best of their ability in order to bring pleasure ultimately to Krishna. And that is the way that they get to experience rasa. And I can actually stop here because the idea was, remember, that I was saying, just think that Jaya and Vijaya, after all this has happened, they go back and they're telling all their friends, right? Can you believe what happened to me? This is what I've been going through for my last 3 lifetimes. Where have you been, Jaya? We haven't seen you around. Oh, funny thing, I'll tell you one of these days. Before you know it, they're having these grand tellings of stories there in Vaikuntha. And Jaya and Vijaya are telling everyone how they experienced Veera Rasa with Krishna. They make it a jolly good story. So that for them is way better than floating in one of these tanks, what do they call them now? I forget. Hypertropic or something. The suspended animation, the suspended reality. Brahman realization, not quite. In that general direction. Well, let's continue on. I'm going to go on and start a new one. Why not? But I'll stop here anyway. I'll just say this is Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Sri Radhe.